Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Tim Lee. I'm a research analyst at Red Cloud Securities. I'm delighted to host a Red Cloud webinar on zinc development today. We will hear from Kerem Yusenmez, President and CEO of Metallum Resources, Inc. During today's webinar, he will provide an overview and outlook. Then we will take questions. You can type your questions into the chat box at any time, and we will get to as many as we can. Before we kick things off, first we need to discuss some fine prints. During this Metallum webinar, forward-looking statements may be made. I would direct listeners to the company's forward-looking statements disclosure outlined on page 2 of the Metallum corporate presentation that can be found on the company's website, metallumzinc.com. For Red Cloud Securities, Inc., I would highlight that this webinar is for information purposes only. It should not be considered a solicitation or a recommendation to buy or sell securities. We note that this call does not consider the particular situation or needs of individual investors. Participants should rely on their own investigation and seek their own professional advice before investing. Please see our most recent research located on the Red Cloud website for specific disclosures on Metallum. So we have Metallum Resources presenting today. The company is focused on becoming the next zinc producer with the Superior Lake project in Northern Ontario. This project hosts a past producing mine and a high-grade resource with zinc as well as copper, gold, and silver. Project is well advanced with a robust feasibility study completed and progress on the permitting front. With that, I now turn it over to Kerem to update our audience on the company.
Thank you, Tim. Great intro. I'm delighted to be here and excited to share our story. So let me give you a background on myself and why I'm here. My name is Kerem Yusenmez, as Tim mentioned, and I'm the current president and CEO of Metallum, a relatively new company. We did this deal. We acquired this asset from an Australian company, Superior Lake Resources, last year and started trading in April. So under the symbol MZN on TSX. I'm myself a geological engineer licensed in Ontario as well as in Manitoba, with more than 20 years of experience, pushing to 25, in the sector in all stages of exploration and mine development, as well as production in Manitoba as well. We have highly experienced board and the team that can build the mine and grow and bring shareholder value, which we've done in the past. I wanted to show some of the infrastructure we have on this cover slide. So this is our flagship project, obviously, and it's a past producing mine that was mined. They mined in the 90s, Inmet mined. But what we inherit here is the tailings dam, polishing pond, and settlement pond, apart from other infrastructure, which I'm going to show in the next few slides. But not a lot of development projects have this kind of infrastructure. I can show right here. Sorry. I guess there's a reason why I'm not an artist, but that's where the current active water treatment plant is, and the tailings facility is good to go. It's operational. We can use it. There's no problems. So this is a past producing mine, like I mentioned, which was closed at the end of the 90s after 10 years of production. Due to low zinc prices at the time, they mined about 3.3 million tons. And generated, with today's numbers, almost $2 billion. I'll go through that in a minute. But now that the zinc prices are high, we're looking at reopening the mine. As Tim mentioned, here are our cautionary notes, as I might be doing some forward-looking statements. So our project currently is at the development stage of the Lassonde curve. When we acquired this from Superior Lake Resources, Australian listed company, we acquired by equity. So they own 65% of Metallum Resources as a result, and they're mostly on escrow at the moment. The 15% is held by management, including myself, as well as Sprott group of companies. And so that gives you 80% of tightly held shares. So 20% of 195 million shares are only under trading at the moment. So When we did the deal in 2020, it took a little bit of time to close it. So we started trading in 2021. But what's interesting is they did a feasibility study under Australian standards, JORC compliant feasibility study, published it in 2019. And so we couldn't really use that because the TSX, the securities, didn't allow us to use because they consider it as historic. So what we did since the acquisition is we updated that feasibility study and used the most current cost, which is increased, and published the 43-101 feasibility study in October. So the feasibility study outlines robust economics. I'm going to go into more detail on that. But this is, in fact, the lowest cost quartile zinc producer, basically driven by exceptionally high-grade ore. What is high-grade ore? It is the highest zinc development project out there right now. Basically, the remaining ore, as you can see on the left side here, is 2.35 million tons, 350, 18% zinc, 1% copper, and some precious metals. Since everybody loves gold, zinc is going under the radar. I did a quick gold equivalence resource at $1.5 per pound zinc. The equivalent gold resource is 13 grams per ton at 1 million ounces. So it is very high grade any way you like it, you look at it. And what's interesting is all-in sustaining cost, basically the break-even cost, is 41 cents per pound. This year, today, it is at 1.65. So we have a lot of room. It's more than 4 times. So given the historic volatility of zinc, we have a very, very good room to play with there. And since the beginning of last year, almost a year and a half, the zinc price has been going up under the radar. Nobody's paying attention to it. But this is a good time. It's expected to remain high or go high year after year, 10 to 15% next 5 to 7 years. So exceptional high financial returns. It's going to generate over the life of mine, which currently sits at 9 years, $95 million EBITDA in average year after year. So very, very profitable operation that is that's outlined here. So what is the opportunity here? Out of 117 development assets with over 5% zinc we looked at, most of them are in difficult jurisdictions. So we eliminated those and then looked at the zinc equivalent, since often zinc comes polymetallic. And then we eliminated those, looked at the high-grade ones over 7%, and looked at the volume, 400,000 tons or over. There's only 5 assets that fit the criteria. And 4 out of those 5, I'm not going to go through all the details here, but if you look at the second line here, 4 out of those 5 companies, 4 of them are billion-dollar companies with market cap. So I converted all into US. We are sitting around $13 million. So that shows you the upside potential in terms of investment. But the asset value, you look at the grade, ours has the highest grade. Look at the capital requirements, lowest capital requirement. So possibly the highest return on investment given the NPV to market cap sitting around 4 times lower than the industry average. So when they mined in the 90s, the grade was so high that they had to literally dilute the ore in order to process it on surface. I was talking to one person that worked in the plant, is based in Schreiber now, which is 27 kilometers from the mine gate. That's what he told me. It's shocking. I mean, it's a problem. It's a good problem to have, but it's still a problem. So our feasibility study was based on 1,000 ton per day production. So that's going to give us 33,400 tons per year and 1,300 tons copper per annual. So when you look at what they mined over 10 years, they mined almost $2 billion worth of metals with today's numbers: 900 million pounds of zinc, 55 million pounds of copper, 1 million ounces of silver, and 55,000 ounces of gold. That's equivalent of 1.8, 1.9 billion dollars today's money. So it was very profitable back then. It's profitable now, and over the years to come, there's a lot to gain from that. So the cost is also very low, 35 cents. We're talking about cash cost, and break-even cost is 41 cents. Again, today, $1.65, the zinc price. But what's interesting also here is the initial capital investment that is needed is $116 million only. That includes everything. What we are planning to do here is, when I'm going to talk about the permits in a second, we are going to shorten that, well, lower the time and shorten the payback period, which currently sits almost 3 years. So NPV after tax is 253 million. IRR after tax is 35%. I was reading an article last week, 15% or over are considered as good projects. So any way you look at it, there's no loophole here. It's a great project, great timing, under the radar for any investor that is not following the puck. As the great one said, don't go where the puck is, go where it is going. So I think that's the case for zinc at the moment. So we talked about infrastructure. The reason partly why we have the low cost and the capital investment is because of the infrastructure we have. We have 16-kilometer underground development, dams, grid power literally runs across the property, but we also have transformer on site ready to go. It's 20 kilometers from Trans-Canada Highway with a well-maintained year-round road that gives access to transport to smelters as well as to ports. Thunder Bay, 150 kilometers via that highway. I mean, can't get any better. So it is located, 150 kilometers east of Thunder Bay, right by the highway, near town of Schreiber. Very supportive locals and First Nations there. So that'll give us access to, the closest would be Valleyfield in Montreal, or one of these other two in North America. But also we can, if we wanted to ship from Thunder Bay Port to Europe or from Vancouver to China. So we have options for that. The other thing is the concentrate is clean. That was one of the things I didn't know about, but as I was looking into this project before we did the deal, I called a friend of mine, Mark Cruz, and I asked him about, what do you think about the met? Because he dealt with that a lot, and he looked at it, very good ceram. So, and there's a met test that was done in 2019, which confirmed the recoveries as well as the deleterious material content that was very in line with the historic production numbers. So it's pretty much free from deleterious materials, very high recoveries, clean concentrate, highly desirable. In fact, metal traders and some smelters have approached us, as well as debt providers and mine developers, that we are in the early stages of the conversation to fund the production. So as we move forward, we'll be leveraging these on-site and near mine infrastructure, which actually makes it easy for us to permit. It is historically underground operation, and we are going to keep it that way. So we are not disturbing the ground an inch further than what is already in place, which is on patented land. We're going to utilize that. So no additional any work to the surface. We're going to use the existing underground, which goes right to the ore zone. That makes permitting easy. What also makes permitting easier relatively is the First Nations and local support. In fact, I had a meeting this morning as well. Again, so they're very supportive. We have various permits in place. The property is on patented land. The rest of the surrounding mining claims are being converted to mining lease. Ontario doesn't grant patents anymore. And also we are, right now, the underground workings are flooded. We are currently working on obtaining the dewatering permit so we can start dewatering. My last conversation with the ministry was that we are on schedule to obtain that by April, say May. If we get that in May, nothing is stopping us to start dewatering in June and use the existing facilities and gain access even this year. So because we are applying for advanced exploration, we can either use the same shaft, that existing shaft, or drive the decline this year, which will provide us with two really good catalysts. It's going to first decrease the initial capital requirements. Secondly, it's going to significantly reduce the payback period, which currently sits almost 3 years to 1.5 years. So apart from what feasibility tells us, we have a plan to shorten that timeline significantly by utilizing all these items. And ESG is, again, the big part of what we do, who we are. We have so far been only using First Nations affiliated or owned and operated contractors. We did a small drilling program, completely owned and operated by First Nations. And all the other water monitoring we are doing, everything else we do is affiliated with that. And on the environmental side, we are planning to use all the electric fleet or camp solar panels that we can, even if we don't do anything and end up using carbon credits. We have the advantage of having 96% of the power in Ontario, in that region, produced from non-carbon emitting sources. So carbon credits, if we end up doing that, even, that's the worst case scenario. If we buy carbon credits, the cost will be the lowest. And I mean, but we're not planning to do that. We want to improve. So we are actually starting to track this year our ESG performance so we can see where we need to improve, what we can improve. So we're not currently focused on exploration, but I want to touch base a little bit. On the left-hand side, that's the section view of Winston horizon as well as Peak horizon. Winston horizon, the light-colored areas show what was depleted. As you can see, Winston mainly mined, and the solid colors are what is in the current resource calculation. And the dashed areas are the immediate first target zones. And you can see the underground development here, right to the ore, 3 levels already done, right to the bottom. So we see some potential here and here. Lower grade, when I say lower, it's 8 to 10%, but here it goes up to 40%. So this has never been tested, but there is smoke, there is geophysical information. Drilling from surface, 13, 14, 1500 meters, we are going to do that underground. That's why we're not immediately focused on that. That to increase the mine life by 3 to 4 years is very, very likely. But what's interesting is VMS deposits such as this one come in 4 to 6 horizons, and we have only 2, and they are in different ages. So there's more to be found, a lot of information indicating these other horizons here potentially. Never been tested, never been drilled. That's what we're going to. We have surface showings here with high zinc values and copper. So we are going to go after those as soon as we start construction and/or production. That's down the road. Our immediate focus is build the mine as soon as possible. So corporate catalyst, we are currently starting to raise $3 to $4 million so we can do the dewatering and detailed engineering work. We are looking. We already started listing in the US on the OTC, and a couple of research coverage reports are being published. Will be published in February. On the operations side, like I mentioned, we're looking at starting dewatering this June, July. Shouldn't take more than 3 months. So in the fall, towards winter, we will be underground rehabbing, and either drive the decline or use the existing shaft, depending on what it entails. We're looking at that at the moment, and that is going to give us early access to high-grade ore and shorten the time life to production as well as the payback period. And on the exploration side, down the road, we're going to expand. I mean, mining is a depleting work. It doesn't grow unless you do more exploration, which we are prepared to do, and there's a lot of potential for that. So just to recap, Metallum has one of the highest grade zinc projects in the world. Also copper. World's copper average is 0.5, 0.48. Ours is 1%. on the zinc. It used to be 5%. Now it's 2 to 3%. Ours is 18% zinc. And definitely the most advanced project in North America. The product is highly desirable from traders and smelters' point of view. They like the good quality so that they can blend it for their purpose. And we started early conversations with them already. And the exploration upside to increase the mine life 3 to 4 years is very, very high. And the valuation discount is one of the best at this time. And apart from that, we have a very experienced board. Our founder and chairman, Simon Ridgway, has done this many times, many discoveries in Canada, Latin America, and built mines with Fortuna Silver. He was the founder and chairman until recently. We have very good geology support on our board and team. Andrew is a local exploration geologist. He's done very well in the area. And Mark Cruz, he's built Trevally Mining from scratch and becoming one of the top 10 zinc producers in the world with 4 operating mines, mostly reopening the old mines. So he's very, very experienced in that. And he grew that company to over $1.5 billion market cap. And David Lang also did that and financed a lot of mine reopenings or mine building. So we have the team to do that. So yeah, in a nutshell, it's hard to see the feedback. There's no, I can't do that. So I can go in more detail in any of the areas if there's an interest, but I'm also always available. Our website is metallumzinc.com. And you can see my email here anytime. I'm happy to discuss, and you can follow us on social media as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Karim, for a very informative presentation. We'll now start the Q&A portion of the webinar. A reminder to everyone on the line that you can type your questions into the chat box at any time. We already do have a few questions. First, you had touched on this, but it seems that the priority is on bringing the mine to production first. What plans would you have for exploration this year?
Yeah, this year we are not focused on exploration, to be honest. However, having said that, we are excited to be able to go underground later this year. Really, really excited. I think that's where the creme de la creme, I think, sits. The lower section. That is going to enable us to go in the lower section and actually touch the really, really high-grade ore. We might do some drilling from there. We are actually looking at where we can drill from underground at the moment. One of the things we're looking at is, are we going to drive the decline or are we going to use the shaft for production? If we drive the decline, there's a couple of areas we want to do exploration from and early access to upper section of the ore through that ramp. So we have some plans for exploration, but the other thing is later this year, one of the things we might do is test some of the near surface anomalies that we have. We are fine tuning that. Some need a little bit of snow. It makes it easier. But yeah, this year we're not focused on exploration per se.
Great. And how are relations with the First Nations and the local community in that area?
Yeah, that's very, very important. That's one of the first things we did. I reached out to them and pretty much, it's their territory. We have to respect that in every way possible. You can't just walk in and do things without the support from the local communities, whether it's First Nations or people living in the area. So that was one of the first things we did. Meetings, obviously, Zoom initially last year, but then in person and periodically continuing to do so. And they have one staff that we are working together with who's helping monitoring all the environmental stuff on surface for us and for themselves. And we currently are in talks with them, and they're very supportive. That makes it easier for everybody. The transparency is key for us.
Great. And what are the permitting steps remaining until you can start production?
Yeah, there's a couple actually. It's not that straightforward, but So we have a bunch of permits, like I mentioned. It's on patented land, makes it easier. It's a past producing mine with a good history. Those make things easy. What we are currently working on is dewatering permit. So dewatering permit entails a bunch of studies together. All the environmental impact assessment is in there, closure plan is in there. That is being currently done. It's actually almost at the stage that we can submit it, almost. And so that will be the main thing, I think, for this year. If we can get that dewatering permit, we can dewater, we can create the access in a safe way, so it's ready to go. That's under advanced exploration permit. Once we get that, once we confirm, we are going to apply immediately after that to full production permit, which is basically updating that application and updating the closure plan to a larger, detailed, more rigorous plan. That's after that, it's go time, basically, in a nutshell.
Great. And question about the dewatering. To what level is the water in the mine, and how long will it take to dewater to the lower levels?
Very good question. So there's two horizons, Winston and Pick. I mean, it's like this, but so Winston and Pick, there's the drift that connects the two, 650 level. There is a plug in between. Hydraulically, they are separate. They were flooded separately. They can be dewatered separately. What we are looking initially is to dewater Pick first, and then start dewatering Winston. Pick will take roughly 2.5, say 3 months only. Obviously, it's not very straightforward. There is very detailed engineering actually going into that, because you need to lower section by section. It's watered right to the top. We actually tested the water multiple times to see the, what the status and everything else. So that's the plan. We're gonna initially do that. So once we do that, late in the summer, sometime in the fall, we should be able to go underground and then apply for full production permits. That's the plan.
Great. And you had said that you had been approached by metals traders and smelters, but do you have any preliminary, do you have any existing offtake agreements, or are you in discussion with those groups for an agreement like that?
We don't. It's at early stages. There's nothing other than NDA that was signed and them looking at the data at the moment. But good interest. I mean, zinc, the stocks are at all-time lows, and the demand is growing. Not only infrastructure bills that are being introduced, the stimulus packages, but also electrification. I mean, I just read a report from Wood Mackenzie on solar panels alone. It's going to triple the need. It's not the batteries itself, it's the infrastructure surrounding the electrification equals zinc, obviously copper too, but it's incredible. And zinc air battery is also getting traction. State of New York is using them right now. They're easy to transport. They don't combust. They're not toxic, so no permits needed. Very cheaply storing energy. I mean, Colorado, California doing pilot right now through Zinc 8 energy. It's amazing what's happening with the zinc market right now. So
great.
Sorry, I'm going off topic a little bit, but there's so much to say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
A couple questions here, again, relating to kind of the underground area. Now, you had mentioned, do you have a permit to take water from Pick?
Not yet. It's in the process. It's not as straightforward. You prepare a document, you apply. It's not like that. You have to do consultation with all the communities, not just the immediate community. You need to do a lot of studies. Okay, it's not just we want to take water. Here's the water sample. No, you do a lot of lab analysis. You have to make sure how you're going to treat. You're going to have to present it. A bunch of ministries need to look at it at the draft level and then review, feedback, do this, do that. So we've been doing that for the last several months. We're coming close to submitting it. And after that, it's just a review and getting the, because once we submit, that means that it's already been reviewed at the preliminary level. We've done a lot of work, and we're getting close.
Great. And what is the quality of the underground mining area? Obviously, if you're not down there yet, so it's hard to assess in some ways. But do you have some idea of the quality of the mining area and the workings?
Great question. So my background is rock mechanics. I've done many studies for underground, a lot of mines, Young-Davidson to, I used to be the rock mechanics engineer for Inco, for Thompson Operations. I've done a lot, and that was the very first thing I looked at, because it could be costly. You could lose, a lot of good ore through dilution. But it can also slow you down. It could be everything, right? That was the very first thing I looked at, because that's what I know the most. Before I got involved, when I was going through the data, I'm like, this is too good to be true. Where is it wrong? So the rock quality is at the top section, good to very good. So we don't expect anything major. Obviously, it's not deep and it's not high stress area, unless you do mining mistakes and create induced stress, which has not been done. So it was mined pretty well, to be honest, and we are looking at long hole stoping, and we worked with Rock-Eng on the feasibility level. The sequence, we went back and forth and decided on a very good pattern, and so we don't expect any current problems or ongoing problems once we start developing or starting producing. Or obviously softer, and we don't expect any dilution. One of the first things actually I looked at also, Winston has some chert associated on the hanging wall side. So ore is soft, rock is solid, chert is very brittle. Not all the time. When they incorporated the chert on the hanging wall, they had some dilution. But geology, the geochemistry is different in that sense. On the pick side, there is no ultramafics. We don't expect that. There's no intersection in any of the boreholes. The other thing I forgot to mention is, in Winston, when they mined, there was 1,587 boreholes, if I'm not mistaken. Diamond drill holes were drilled into Winston. Only 247 diamond drill holes on the pick side. That alone shows you how much potential it could have. But yeah, it's the hanging wall is not the same issue, and the inclination or the plunge is not the same. But we based it on the same or similar dilution assumptions on the feasibility study.
Great. And one question here on kind of sticking with kind of the water and different things. I guess you do have the existing water treatment plant. Will that be used to treat the water from the dewatering as well?
Yes, that's what we looked at multiple times on the feasibility level study, as well as just recently, just to make sure as part of our plan to submit, we went into detail there. It has the capacity. Obviously, had to be, you can't overflood it, but since you're going to do it in stages, going underground slowly and just doing the pick first and then Winston, it has the capacity, and it can be definitely used. Currently, it's under use for they're treating rainwater.
Okay.
Yes, oh, yeah. You heard that right. They're treating rainwater there right
now. And looking at a different side here, can the lower grade material maybe be amenable to ore sorting or DMS?
Absolutely. That's a great question. We are looking at ore sorting. Initial crushing underground as well. So yes, ore sorting is one of the things we will be looking at, as long as it can justify the capital. That's I think it is there, especially if we can increase the mine life. One of the other things we're looking at is feasibility study did the trade-off, and it recommends paste fill. We might look into cemented rockfill. I want to look at that as well. That's one of the other areas we'll be looking at this spring. But yes.
Great. And one question related to the local community, is Schreiber where most of the workforce is coming from for the project?
I hope so. I mean, there's a lot of people moved away. I think the general population is a little on the late stage of their lives currently, but I'm hoping they will move back. There's actually good some young population in the First Nation communities around our project site. Hopefully, Schreiber can also be the main area, but the whole area, you know, from Wawa or Sioux to Thunder Bay, it's all mining people, and they understand and they have the skill set and experience. So I think all these surrounding communities, initially we're planning to build a camp. So, but I'd love to see more local for sure.
Great. And one on more corporate level here, do you have any concerns with having a single large shareholder owning over 60% of the company?
Yeah, so obviously it wasn't the intention initially, I guess, when we acquired, they became, because we had whatever, 6 million market cap at the time. And no, because they did all the studies, you know, the feasibility study, they initially did all the work. They did a lot of geophysics, as most Australians like to do. So we have a lot of data. The data room I have is incredible. I mean, it's really, whoever asks, I'm saying, like, you got to give me a list what you want, because if I give everything to you, it'll take a year for you to process. It's incredible. But they don't have any board seat or management say, but they're very supportive. They've been very supportive because they want to see this mine built. They did all the work. They want to see this actually producing. So we don't have any issues since they're supportive on our plans. And as we move forward, they are happy to be diluted as well. I mean, there's really, it's not that it looks like that, but it's not that of a bad deal or anything like that.
Great. And do you consult with them regularly?
Not regularly, but initially I was asking them a lot of questions. Lately as well, since we are moving forward, you know, in a way that, like, what were you thinking? Why did you do it this way? Have you considered this? To get a more get more understanding. That way, actually, it is easier or more advantageous to have them, you know, available, right? It's not like somebody sold it to us and moved away to another area or whatever. I can always call them. They're very supportive, like I mentioned. So I can ask. So I see that as a positive, on the positive note, that I have their support. They have the engineers, still do. They have the people who built the relationships initially. So it's good to have that alternative, actually, to be able to reach out to them and ask. Not regularly, but yeah, I do when I need something from his history or what they thought. I do. Like one of the guys there, Keith, he's a processing engineer, very good. He has a lot of experience in Africa, in Canada as well, and in Australia. He's been very, very helpful.
Great. And looking ahead to financing the project, do you have in mind sort of an equity debt split goal for the CapEx financing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it's hard to tell. It's gonna be partly related to the market behavior. See where our market cap or share price is. But initially, we need some cash to finish the work, the detailed engineering and dewatering. And then after that, we're going to go underground. So that's where the money will be needed. But down the road, if we can show that and put some equity in that way, I think the debt will be relatively easy. Typically, it's around 40 to 60%. So that will be acceptable, considering the market is there, you know. So yeah, we don't have a specific goal, but obviously we don't want to either undertake a big debt or dilute too much, if that answers the question. It's hard to tell now.
Sure. And one question along the same lines. Would you consider a streaming agreement on the precious metals to help finance the project?
Potentially, yes. Yeah, a couple actually approached to us since it's early. If the deal is there, if the shareholders are going to benefit from it, absolutely.
Great.
Yeah, because it's good. Yeah, like you said, it's polymetallic and clean. If the deal is there, yes.
Great. And thinking ahead here, kind of corporate strategy wise, what is the long-term strategy for the company? Would you like to grow and become a mid-tier producer, or are you looking to bring this to production and maybe sell the company?
Yeah, that's a good question. I get that often. So like, I give the same example. My house is not for sale, but if someone comes and gives me $5 million, I'll sell it. Our intention is to build the mine, but not only build the mine, but add other portfolio. We already have in the region other properties. We have polymetallic base metal properties, VMS, strategically picked up at the time, but they're early stage exploration plays. What we want to do is build this mine or start building and then add another one, either producing or another brownfield. Like you said, we want to not have only one major asset, but other ones as well, and hopefully get to mid-tier level. Definitely we want to develop and start production.
Great. And I think that's all the questions we have. I guess one question that I'd kind of give as a bit of a closing one here, just to kind of review, what news would we expect to have over the coming weeks and months from Metallum?
Yeah, so one of the things is the Winston option. Hopefully that's going to happen in the next little while. Dewatering permit is the major one. And the reports are coming out, the analyst reports. So yeah, these would be the initial major catalysts, I would say. And OTC listing for US. We have real good interest from the US retail. I think that will make them, access trading easier that way also, and hopefully good. And I see, hi, Francine had a good comment. That's good. It's the same age as Kid Creek. I wish it was as big, but Kid Creek is enormous, obviously, but it's VMS, same type, same age. Like George Costanza said, the ocean was angry that day, I guess that year, or age zone, I guess. I don't know, geologically. Anyway.
Great. All right. Well, I would like to thank Kerem Yusenmez from Metallum for presenting today. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in and for your questions today. Just a reminder that Red Cloud Securities will be back tomorrow afternoon when our webinar series continues, with CMC Metals presenting Thursday, February 10th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Have a great rest of your day.